So I'm going to give an overview of some of the preliminary analysis you can do with variables to decide if they're good to include in regression. I'm going to be using a data set called baseball from SAS help, and what that looks like is it has teams and division that are listed as character variables and number of times at bat and number of hits that are continuous. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is proc means. And I just name the data set data. And if you just run it like that, it should just give you some basic descriptive statistics. You'll notice that only the continuous variables showed up. That's because SAS doesn't know how to take the mean of words, as it shouldn't. And yeah, this is useful enough to decide if a variable should be included or excluded in certain scenarios, like if it's an outcome variable and we are doing Poisson regression, we want mean and variance to be similar. You can also put nmiss, see how many missing values there are. Sometimes if a variable has a lot of missing values, you might want to exclude it. And just a trick, I don't know all the things proc means can do, but if you want to find out, you can just give SAS something that's definitely not an option, and it'll give you an error back, and it will ask you if you meant one of these things, one of the many things you could have put. So that's all the other things proc means can do. Proc univariate is much better than proc means because it can do everything proc means can do and a lot more. And I like to put plots because it does some good normality plots. So proc univariate gives you statistics for each variable separately. So here's a lot of the information on number at bat. You have lots of information about the distribution. You also have some extreme values, which is useful if you're not sure how missing data is handled, and they might choose some impossibly large value or something to represent missing data. And yeah, here's normality for these two variables. It gives you histogram, which can be useful for a lot of different reasons, but this QQ plot is extra useful to assess normality. Proc freak is the next thing I'm going to talk about, and it's good for categorical stuff. And I like to put, well, we're going to do chi-square, but I also like to put this just because I like it to just have the frequency only. Well, I'll show you what I mean. Like when you first do this, it gives you a table that's not as clean looking as I would like. So it'll give you just all of this other information besides, and I just want the frequency. I just want that first row. So if you also feel that way, you can get rid of each of these, and then it should just leave frequency for each. And yeah, so the reason I picked team and division is because even if you don't know anything about baseball, you can imagine if divisions are Eastern and Western, and the city you're in is completely explains whether you're going to be in the Eastern or Western division. And this, the chi-square distribution or chi-square statistic tells you that there's trends in this table. It's not just a random scattering of numbers. And yeah, that means that these might be like one might be such a function of the other that they can't be modeled together. It'll result in collinearity, and that's something that proc freak can show you. And you can do that thing again where you just put a random scattering of numbers to see all the other things that proc freak can do. I don't know what else it can do, but yeah, it looks like it can do a lot of things. Last thing is proc core. Data equals data. And it's going to assume I'm talking about the continuous variables, and you can see the number of hits and the number of times at bat are very highly correlated, and that makes sense because even if you even if every time you're at bat you get a hit, then it's still going to be really similar, just because if you're only at bat a few times, then you're only going to get a few hits. Obviously, that as soon as you're at bat a lot, these numbers can deviate a lot more, and but yeah, just by and large they're similar enough. But if you have reason to believe they might be different among the strata of another variable, you can put by, say, team. But whenever you use a by statement in SAS, you need to also make sure the data is sorted by that variable. So yeah, this is me sorting it by team, and yeah, you can see it's sorted nicely now. So we can do proc core by team, and you can see that these two are still correlated to varying degrees for each team. And yeah, this is another situation where number of times at bat and number of hits might be best not to model together, just because of collinearity. And yeah, another huge part of bivariate analysis is doing bivariate regressions between each of these two variables. So, like, let's just say number of hits is the outcome. You might do a regression between number of times at bat and hits, division and hits, and team and hits. You would typically use like regression procs, like proc GLM, proc logistic, proc reg. But I'm not going to show that here because I want to do specific videos on those in themselves. You could do proc t-test or proc ANOVA or whatever, but if you those are all technically special cases of regression, where like if you do a regression just between number of hits and team, this linear regression is gonna reduce to ANOVA anyway. So you might as well just use proc reg or proc GLM. And yeah, that's mostly the analysis you're gonna need just for preliminary analysis.